This week on Pivot with Purpose. This one is going to be a little different. Actually, I haven't had a man on here in a while, I don't think.
Really?
Where'd you come from? Like, what's your background?
In college, I was hustling, I was cutting hair, I was DJing, and then I was failing all of my classes because I hate science, I hate chemistry, I hate biology. Had like a 1.0 GPA my first semester, lost my little mini scholarship. Do I really believe in myself? You know what I'm saying? I was always very business oriented. I love business. I remember just hanging up the phone with my dad. I was like, I'm probably never going to hear from them or speak from them again.
Wow.
And so this is my freshman year, and then that's where the hustle mentality really started.
So did that relationship kind of go astray?
Yeah, for the next 10 years
No
plus
way.
years. I'm to be honest, I mean, this is some deep stuff. For the next 10, 15 years, I was just hustling and chasing a dream.
Hey friend, you're listening to Pivot with Purpose. This is my show where I pivoted from shit I'm 30, where I was dreading turning 30. I had a failed marriage, failed engagement after that, and I don't have a relationship with my immediate family. But through it all, I came out the other side with a thriving business, an unexpected radio morning show of my own, and a platform where I can reach millions of people and help them walk in their truth. I am now celebrating every step of my journey into continuously finding my purpose, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Sometimes this journey looks like shit, and it probably sounds even worse, but it's still our journey, and I'm learning right along with you to enjoy it. There's always a rainbow after the rain falls. Now, if you need advice in pivoting in any aspect of your life, relationships, career, spirituality, send your questions or story to askcarlawilmaris@gmail.com or shoot me a DM at @carlawilmaris. Now, let's start the show. Welcome back to another episode, Pivot with a Purpose. I'm your girl, Carla. I love to do fun episodes, but also I like to bring people on the show that, one, inspire me, two, will inspire you, and I just think are pretty badass. But this one is going to be a little different. Actually, I haven't had a man on here in a while, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah, the last man was good. But there was a purpose behind that episode. Mm-hmm. But I'm bringing an invisible guy, kind of Casper. This day and age, you're kind of like a little Casper.
I like that.
You are.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how I met you or where. I have no idea. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was a while ago. I remember one of our first conversations. I remember where I was at specifically because it was raining so bad. I was outside when they were opening up the DC gathering spot, and we had a call because I think you were speaking at one of our events. We were just connecting.
Yeah.
I think this was.
I'm actually no. I remember 20? Now. You were. Okay. So I'm a bit of a stalker. I remember what it was. Now I do remember. Okay. I'm a little bit of a stalker, and when there's events and I want to be a part of it, I don't want to know who the speakers are. I want to know who's putting it together.
Okay.
And it took me a minute to figure it out. It was you, and I had sent you a DM.
Yeah.
And you didn't see it. Then there was I think it was a year after, there was another event, and I reached out again, and that one you did see it. I think that's how we connected for me to do it was during COVID.
So it was during the pandemic.
During the pandemic.
Probably one of our virtual stuff that we were doing. The
very first one was the virtual one.
Okay.
And you were like, yeah, I was like, I see a problem with your lineup. You're not talking about podcasting.
Yeah.
I'm like, you need someone to talk about X, Y, and Z. And you're like, yeah, let's do it. I'll connect you with so-and-so.
Yeah.
And that's the first time. And then I remember you messaged me again. And it's so random. Okay, so basically this is Drew. Drew is what I want to coin. I don't even know if you have it on your thing. Like the Invisible CEO.
That's a book that I'm trying to write.
I feel like you should.
Yeah,
like you have to.
Everybody that's heard of it was like, yo, I want to read it.
Yes.
And I'm like, and I teased it out there, but I didn't actually finish writing it. So now I'm forced
now
to
you have to, because it
makes
so much sense, especially when you're in a creative space, and a lot of times you're forefront. Because I do remember you used to do a lot of videos online about marketing, and what was that transition like? First of all, where'd you come from? What's your background?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I'm super excited to be here, first off.
Thank you for coming. First of all, he just flew in, and I'm so he literally flew in for this. I love this. Thank you.
I'm flying out right after this. And I was just excited to be here because when you had asked, I was like, you know what? I see little things from your podcast. I'm like, everybody who's on here, I feel like it'd be some deep stuff, and people be talking about some real ish. I was like, I like that. Let's just jump on here. Let's chop it up a little bit, and then we kind of go back home. But no, quick backstory. I don't know. It's kind of super long, but I'll try to condense it. Um, Born and raised in the DMV.
Okay.
Grew up with very, parents came from third world country, didn't have anything, didn't
Where
know
they from?
anybody.
Like, what's your background?
Vietnam.
Okay.
So very kind of traditional, conservative type of upbringing. But they came on here like fresh off the boat type of stuff. Was like, hey, look, and we're trying to make a better life for you, so you better live this type of life, right? Which is like A+ through everything, super high expectations, and like doctor, engineer, lawyer type of life.
Definitely supposed to be a doctor.
100%, right? And so after high school, a lot of my story starts when I go to college, right? I got accepted into the only pharmacy program that
You look like a pharmacist.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you could definitely be one.
And it was funny. It was at Hampton University, which was down in Hampton, Virginia.
Isn't that at HBCU?
It is at HBCU, right?
I'm about to say, because he's one of those Asians that got all the niggas around.
So I didn't even know. I kind of knew, but I really didn't know. But it was the only school that accepted me, so I was like, well, let's just go, whatever. And then my friend at the time, one of my best friends at the time, he hooped, he played ball. He was like, yo, I'm going to Hampton too. I was like, I bet, let's be roommates. So we go down there, and
this makes so much sense.
Oh, it does?
This puts everything into perspective.
And so, yes, because a lot of my experience, community building, just understanding the culture, a lot of it comes from Hampton. I'll tell you really, like, long story short, what happened at Hampton was like game changer for me, because I ended up being like the main DJ there too. And so I learned under this DJ named DJ Tay James, which was Justin Bieber's DJ.
Okay.
Right. And then before that was DJ Baby Drew, which was Chris Brown's DJ. They all went to Hampton. So like there was a super successful lineage of DJs, and I would just like learn, study. And, in college, I was hustling, I was cutting hair, I was DJing. And then I was failing all of my classes because I hate science, I hate chemistry, I hate biology. Had like a 1.0 GPA my first semester, lost my little like mini scholarship. And I was like, yo, I can't do this. So I switched my major to this 5-year MBA program. I was like, hey, it's a master's program. I think this might work. I think they'll be okay with it. But I didn't even tell them to the following year. By the time they found out, they went like crazy. We had so many fights, so many arguments. They were saying, basically, if you want to stay here and do this, you're completely on your own. We don't want anything to do with you. It's very much like,
and that's a cultural thing, right?
It is. Like, and so at a very young age, I was left with this like I had to like, yo, do I really believe in like myself? You know what I'm saying? I was always very business oriented. I love business. I love making money. And I was like, whatever. I remember just hanging up the phone with my dad. I was like, I'm probably never going to hear from them or speak from them again. Wow. And so this is my freshman year. And then that's where the hustle mentality really started.
So did that relationship kind of go astray?
Yeah, for the next like 10 years plus years. I'm to be honest, I mean, this is some deep, deep stuff. For the next 10, 15 years, I was just hustling and chasing a dream. And it's crazy because I think back at like how and why I'm so motivated, all that good stuff. And honestly, it just comes down to like proving my parents wrong. You know what I'm saying? Or even deeper, like trying to even make them proud. You know what I'm saying? Like after going to therapy during the pandemic, all that good stuff. Like I worked on a lot of childhood traumas.
Went to therapy
but yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it was that.
And it was at no contact at that time for those 10 years?
It was no contact, yeah.
And they live here?
No, they live in Maryland.
Well, I mean, in the U.S.
Yeah, they live in the
U.S.
were still
here.
Yeah. And I was completely on my own. I'm telling you, like, from that time, that last phone call, I was like, everything that I need or want, I have to figure out my own, right? So the next week, I'm like, how do I pay for school? How do I live? How do I buy food? I walked down a mall, and I was like, oh, Marine Corps. Wait, don't y'all give money to people to go to school? I walked in and signed on the dotted line. I was like, I just need money for school. And they were like, well, we need a lot more smart people. So if you sign up and give us all your summers, we'll pay for school and all that good stuff. So like, I was like, do or die. And I'm like, not even a millionaire type of guy.
How old are you at this point?
18.
Okay.
Yeah. So then like the next summer I get shipped out to Paris Island. I spent 13 weeks in boot camp. Like,
so you let go of Hampton?
No, they allowed me to stay at school. I would just have to give them my summers.
Oh,
there was a special program.
Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So I come back and I'm like, all right, cool. I figured out how to get some money for school. And then I'm just back and I'm just hustling, man. Like I learned a lot of, I not only learned the art of DJing, crowd control, hosting. A lot of this, again, started a lot younger. So I started to understand how to move people, how to get people excited. I anticipate, crowd reactions because I'm already thinking 2-3 songs ahead. And so now, like a lot of stuff that we do now is like I'm anticipating, you know, what keeps people up, down, all this good stuff for, you know, a sell or this or that, right? So a lot of that came from DJing, which is really, really cool. But yeah, man, I mean, once I was fully on my own, it was do or die. I always said it was like me and God against the world type of mentality. But yo, I got in, I built my DJ brand. It was called DJ Audio back in the day. And I was DJing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 days a week. By the time I was like a sophomore, by the time I was like a junior, I was bringing in like 6 figures in cash.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
and
I was
this is
just
all in the DC area.
This is in the Hampton Roads. So because Hampton is in 757. So down in Virginia Beach, stuff like that. But I was getting booked up in DC too. I was doing Love Nightclub, Park, all that good stuff up and down.
Going to Hampton and basically being disowned by your family for not following what they wanted you to follow. You kind of fall into a heavier, do you go into like a Asian community or do you really stick with the Black community and the African-American community because that's what you were around?
So you talking about at Hampton?
Right, and while you're DJing all these years.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. It's actually kind of funny. Like, it's so funny how your upbringing and your community kind of like, you know, I don't want to say like assimilation, but like it really is for me, right? Because for me, it's like, there's white people, there's Black people, there's Hispanic people. There was really no Asian people where I was at. And I grew up in PG County, Maryland, which is one of like the most like successful, like middle class, like Black communities and stuff like that. And so I always had to like pick or choose. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because my cousins, the rest of my family grew up in Fairfax, Virginia, which is all like white, you know, families, all that good stuff. And they grew up totally different from me. And so, but we came from the same like family in a sense. It's so interesting. When we got together, like they liked white comedy, white movies, and I'm just like the stuff that like was funny to them wasn't funny to me, and it's so crazy.
Juice?
Yeah, because I just grew up in a different environment. So what I thought was cool, lifestyle, the way we wore clothes, like the Soulja Boy extra large shirts, like that's what we were doing in PG County, Maryland, you know. And then so I mean, even growing up in that area. And then go to Hampton. All of it was very natural for me.
It makes sense. I have a friend. I've actually had her here. She's a real estate agent, Linda, and she is a refugee from Thailand.
Okay.
So she's totally Asian, but she grew up, I believe it was in that area too. She's like, I just was around Black people, and it's like that's what I knew, and that's what I saw, and it makes so much sense now. Like being around you sometimes, and it's like, oh, okay. But I didn't realize that you had that story of your parents that were like, you got to go. So you clearly had to go and make your own family and your own community to work. So now you're a DJ in your sophomore years. Where do you go next? Because there's the whole trajectory to where you are today.
There's so many. I like to look at my life in like seasons of like 4. Like every 4 years, something interesting happens. I don't know why, but I do think there's something there. Just even like how you look at like 4 years in high school, 4 years in college, there's a freshman to then senior level attitude and experience towards things. And in the same way, when you're a freshman, you really enjoy and you're like eyes wide open, you're excited for things. And usually by the time you're a senior, you're like, oh, this is old, I'm over it. Like what's next? You know what I'm saying? You become a freshman again, it's something new. And so my business trajectory has evolved around that kind of whole thesis, right? But anyways, DJing led me to understand marketing and social media. This was 2010, 11, 12. Instagram was just rolling out.
Wait, where year did you graduate high school?
08.
Okay, so you're 3 years younger. Okay, cool.
08, I graduated high school. The only thing around then was Facebook, right? Where we were like still like uploading like, you know, pics for like an event, you know, afterwards, right? Doing collections, albums, right? We were doing
there was MySpace too back then.
And MySpace, right? And some other random stuff too. But Instagram didn't come out until I think 2011, 12-ish. Right, so I was just. I think
it was around. Well, 12 it was definitely out because I was All-Star Weekend here. So I think it came out a little bit earlier, but 2012 it was still very early with those 3 filters.
Got it, exactly. So again, around that time, and for a lot of us who are like millennials, like it was natural for us. Like it wasn't like we were trying to learn a new system. I mean, we were learning a new system, but we were learning as it was growing, and we were growing with it. So it never became something that we had to like really study. We were just using it, and it was fun. And over time, as we were using it, you know what was hotter than Instagram at the time? Twitter. Twitter was hotter for sure.
I never got into it.
I got into it. Man, I mean, I had a big audience on Twitter too, and I just knew like, and I was even promoting parties back then. I was doing that whole entertainment industry type of thing. And I got really good at marketing, social media, all that good stuff, because I understood how to build a personal brand, right? And between the years of, I would say, like 2012 to 2019, 20, like personal branding was like the
Your thing.
Yeah, I think it was everybody's thing. This is when like Gary Vee started popping, like all the big influencers like really got out there because we took this photo sharing app and then we started like sharing about our lives. Then we started building an audience. Then like it really took to another
It's
level.
like we became the Kardashians on our own. Like
100%.
I can do what you do
100%
from my phone.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it for sure. And so, anyways, I did that. I finished. I graduated. I got my MBA. But I will say this: I love entrepreneurship and I love risk, but I'm very risk adverse at the same time. Which means that like, I take very methodical steps towards everything. Right? What looks risky to the outside world, may look risky.
You have a strategy,
but to me, I have a strategy behind it. Right? Even down to like quitting. Like I graduated and I was like, before I just jump in full speed, let me still take a corporate job, right? So then I went and worked at PepsiCo in like sales and marketing, up in Richmond, Virginia. And I was like, let me get this bi-weekly check. And I was still DJing. So then I was doing stuff in the evening. I was doing my day job, getting that bi-weekly check. But then I also wanted to start a marketing agency. Don't really know why. I just knew that, you know what it was? I realized after I graduated that unless I became a celebrity DJ, I just learned that if you're the person doing something, there's going to be a cap to it.
This episode is brought to you by Smart Water. I always tell you the secret to life is to mind your business and drink your water. Well, now I'm going to tell you the exact water you really need to unlock this happiness in your life that I currently have in mind, and that is Smart Water. Today I'm minding my business, and I just love holding my Smart Water can. Yep, you heard me. It's a can. It is so sleek. I love it. I also have a pack of water bottles constantly at my house. They're so perfect. I fit them into my backpack when I'm headed to the airport, when I'm outside on a walk, when I'm taking the baby, I give him his own little Smart Water. They are perfect for all of us. I don't know about you, but I'm constantly overthinking. And in this world where we all overthink, Smart Water is providing a change of pace and a moment of clarity with a simple choice of hydrating with Smart Water. I'm constantly overthinking, and I do that no more when it comes to my water. Smart Water is my choice. Now, life is full of choices. Smart Water is the simple one. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have to spend your time there, there's going to be a cap to it.
You don't want to trade your time for money.
Correct. And I had a professor who taught entrepreneurship at Hampton. He told me something that will always stick with me. He's like, to be honest, most people in the world aren't entrepreneurs. They're hustlers. They're, contractors. They're freelancers, but they're not true entrepreneurs because by definition, in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to know how to use other people, other systems. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be able to, and if you can't do that, and then the whole entrepreneurship word just became like this thing, right? Everybody's an entrepreneur,
but
right?
There is something you just said, and I want the audience to definitely stick on that and hold on for it. If you're taking notes, take notes, because you just mentioned getting a job and still doing things on the side. And I feel like some folks, by the end of him telling his story and what he's doing now, you'll be like, whoa, he's successful and he got there. But even when I left corporate accounting to do podcasting, I had a year's worth of savings.
Oh, that's good.
It's like, I'm not jumping shit. Some people are like, oh my God, you quit accounting to do 100%. Podcasting. And it's like, by the time that year was done, I had $5,000 left.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. It's like I had to make it work. And I took a leap and went to New York for 3 months. But I had some money saved before I left. I hated that job. But it was a career. I'm an accountant by trade and by my degree, right? So what was your degree? Ended up being in what?
So it was an MBA, Master's in Business Administration.
Right. So mine is Business Administration, right? Okay, cool. I didn't do no masters. We stopped here. It took me 37 years to graduate with a bachelor's. Okay. Like I had a baby at 18. I was in and out. I'm $70,000 in student loans, which I'm not. Joe, wake up, baby. Sleepy Joe, wake up. You gotta get rid of it because I'm not paying for it. Somebody's gonna pay for these. Or I might pull a Yvonne Orji. She said when she made like all this money, she was able to sign a check.
Yeah.
I'm not signing $70,000 yet. Yeah. Nah, I'm not. I got paid in taxes. So you did what you had to do and got jobs to be able to support this dream that you had. So it's not just a dream, but there's a work that has to be done behind it, even for somebody like you, a single man with no kids. You had no kids, right? I don't think you did. I'm assuming like he ain't got no kids. He's like, I got 3. Just kidding. So you did the work to be able to get to where you are. So now you have this dream. You take this job, which also gives you a skill set.
100%.
Like working for Pepsi?
Bro, like you're getting paid to learn, in my opinion.
Boom.
So like all this conversation, like, people are, again, a lot of people who are still beginning or figuring it out, they'll have these conversations, but it's like, if you just think through like what's smart and what's methodic, girl, work, save your money, have a year's worth. Like that was I told myself, if I didn't make $1 for the next year, will I survive? You know what I'm saying? And that was kind of my benchmark for knowing. And I was at Pepsi for exactly 1 year.
And my lifestyle changed.
Yeah.
I don't know if yours changed, but when I decided to, jump ship, I, canceled a lot of things. I had a daughter,
100%.
of course. So for me, it was a little scary because I'm like, a whole human that I'm responsible for. But there's like, okay, free things, parks and things like that. I just didn't go out to eat as often. I missed a lot of trips with my friends, like Thailand, Singapore. They went to and I'm just like, it was cute on Instagram. Speaking of Instagram, I'm like, I'll just keep up with you guys on Instagram. But right now, I'm working on something.
And you have a bigger vision too.
Right. You know where now I can just say, hey, I'm booking a flight. I'm out. I couldn't do that 5 years
100%.
ago, but I can do it today. So you did that part, which is take on a job, to learn. It's a strategic job as well. Because if you're working for marketing at Pepsi, Pepsi.
I learned so much.
You said Pepsi and immediately blue and their white and red thing popped into my head.
Yeah, and it's not only Pepsi. Like Pepsi owns like dozens and dozens of products,
right?
All the way down to like they distribute Starbucks and all this good stuff. Like there's so many products underneath their portfolio. Yeah.
So now you're realizing you want to be an entrepreneur, but in marketing.
Yeah.
And you want to open this marketing agency.
I realized that to me, DJing would be a cap. So I didn't want to do that anymore. I realized that my love wasn't necessarily even DJing. It was more so marketing and branding myself to become this DJ. I got really good at that with, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. And so I was like, yo, I want to start a marketing agency. I want to help people build their online brands, websites, social, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah, I kind of just started. I was just kind of building out little like, $500 websites and this and that at the very beginning, hustling, working, telling the world like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm starting.
Isn't there a little bit of delusion there in us? Like that we think that we just tell people we're doing this, and you kind of have to believe it yourself in order to get somebody else to believe it. But
100%.
Did you ever have in the back of your mind a little bit like, who's gonna, to this day, I'm on set and I'm like, why y'all let me do this?
Yeah.
Who's letting me produce their shit? Because it's like, it's just me. I think of like my upbringing. I'm like, this wasn't supposed to be where I was at.
Oh, 100%. There is a level of self-belief where it's just like, I just believe like a very good outcome is going to come out. You know what I'm saying? Even now, like I'm very, very aware that within the next couple years, I will sell one of these businesses that I run. Like I actually seriously believe that, like deep down in my heart, and I have a very strategic plan to that. But it's like I can't go out there and tell the world because I look crazy until I just do it. You know what I'm saying? So I can see what happens over the next.
So
like,
who do you go to? Like I recently found myself in the space, which is when I called Laurent Prophet. He played basketball. He was a coach. Anyways. So I reached out to him because we're in a very similar space, right? And I realized that social media, there's a perception and people play on that perception from rental cars to rental homes and pretending they're making all this money. And I reached a level where my accountant told me how much taxes I had to pay. And I was like, this is wild. But also I realized I didn't have a lot of peers to speak to on it. So who do you speak to? Because the peers that I thought that were in my same, I was trying to be like them and reach their level and what they were posting. None of that was true. Yeah. Like it was like they were either just the face of it. They were really making that much income. So who do you go to?
Yeah, I have two ways of looking at this. And I'll tell you the first one, which was two ways. One is I had a good mentor. I'll tell you about that story. But before that too, before I even had that mentor, to be honest, I self-taught by binge watching a lot of stuff, whether it's on YouTube or whatever. But I'll tell you specifically what I did when I was like fresh out of college. Like I loved Shark Tank, right? And but this is how obsessed I am with entrepreneurship, right? I used to, they're on like season 20, whatever, right? Back in the day, they were like up to like 7 seasons. I would go around telling people like, I've watched every single episode of this entire 7 seasons, and that's how I learned like what to look out for, what not to look, what questions to ask, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, once you watch all that, then I watched all 5 seasons of the Canadian version, Dragon's Den, right? And I watched every single episode of that. And then once you're finished with that, there's a UK version, and on Australia, I watched Australian version. I literally
Do you remember the show
watched,
The Prophet?
Of course, yeah.
Love that one as well.
Like, so I would binge watch it, and I was obsessed over watching these shows that broke down like just business and entrepreneurship, and I learned a lot from that. So like whether you have access to people or not, like I think that's one route, right? And then over time too, I think I was able to attract certain mentors that I would say aren't like the super flashy ones, but that were like real hardcore entrepreneurs, and the way they moved was very, very different. And I think by default, I started to like emulate a lot of that stuff. One of the ladies, man, she runs like $100 million like government contracting firm. So like I'm just watching her, I'm learning from her, and like it's just a beautiful thing.
I think I'm starting to now get out of my shell, because I had these glasses on thinking that who I was seeing on social, like that's what I was like, I want to get there. And then I sat back, and I come from an entrepreneurship family, right? Like my father had pawn shops and businesses. So there's all these businesses that I already come from. So entrepreneurship is in my blood. It's what I do. I got it. I know how to deal with people. I'm a people person.
Yeah, you are.
So I get to where I was going. I realized these other, not all of them, but a lot of the flashy folks aren't what they say they are. So I'm like, I have to move back. And now I admired watching you, right? Because like I said, I'm a little bit of a stalker. So I'm watching, and I'm like, okay, he's behind this and he's behind that. And I love that. And I started switching my business from the teacher and for the camera. So I'm like, there's a space for me to sit behind.
Yeah.
And when these shows launch, nobody knows it's me. And I'm like,
yes. You're doing it. Like I'm watching, I'm like, yo, she's getting it.
I don't, and I keep this show, one, because I want to speak to people like you, and I love to like shoot the shit with my friends. And my next episode is one of my friends, and that's still fun to me, right? I'm like, this is my fun time. But I also use this podcast to train my team.
Right.
So before I use B. Simone or Megan or Across Generations to teach how to do something, I'm like, take these files and let's try this and let's see what we can do there. You can fuck this up, but we can't mess up a client, right? So when all these launches are happening, I think of you, and I think of Laurent, and there's just specific people that I'm like, and there's not too many.
Right.
Because there aren't a lot.
Right.
And my dad was one of those. My dad walked around with like all these jewelry, but dirty shoes. And, Roz, you never knew what my dad had. So I love that aspect of me. And people tell me like all the time, like, why do you just look normal all the time? I don't have a need to do anything more than that. And I love that about specifically what you're doing with your business, that you're okay with being behind the scenes and letting somebody else be the face of it.
Oh, 100%. The key thing there is, we go from like, and really, I learned a lot of this during the pandemic. My mindset shifted tremendously after the pandemic, which I'm sure a lot of people did.
Right.
But not only did it do it personally, it did it for my business. And I'm happy because I realized who I was even before the pandemic wasn't really who I even wanted to be. You know what I'm saying? But the big shift is, one is I started looking a lot into like, there's two sides to this. I started looking a lot into like the private equity, mergers and acquisitions world, all that good stuff, which is like an unsexy, just raw, how do businesses grow and build? Right. And a lot of times, if it involves any like influencer, celebrity, or someone who's the face of it, like if they die and the business goes away, that's a dead end business. That is not an investable business for the most part. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like you need a very, very, and it's basic, it's boring. There's a few people talking about it now, but they're calling it like the boring businesses or just unsexy businesses. And that's the industry I'm starting to love, right? So from a top down approach, that's what's happening in that side. But for like people like me and you, the biggest shift, and then for some people too, because it's already happening. I can already tell it happening because people are over the whole social media thing. A lot of people are starting to get over it.
I think it's the people that we've been in it for a while.
Yeah.
Because there's still those up and coming. I think like now we're seeing our peers maybe. They're like, this is burning me out.
Correct. And the biggest shift is going from like a doer to like a producer, right, of a business. Because when you're a doer, you're like the creative, the artist, the even like the graphic designer, the videographer. They are very like solopreneur, freelancer based type of businesses. And it's cool to start there and it's cool to do that. But when you're a producer, and you don't really learn this until like you just advance through business, when you become a producer, you can get the 100K bag. They call it like above the line and below the line, right? In the film industry, right? Like you get the whole contract, the whole bag, and then you can disperse it accordingly. You could pay yourself. Like that's
never
where
in a million years thought I would see.
That's where it's at. That's where it's at. 100K, like client is a minimum 100K, right? Plus. And so when you're looking at that, like 10 clients is $1 million business, right? And so
But then when you pay out, you're like,
course,
oh my God.
But check this out too. The beautiful thing about it too is like, okay, now you're building teams and like people are fulfilling. You're not the person fulfilling, but here's the thing. Once you kind of like figure that out, it's also, in my opinion, easier to scale.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you're not scaling yourself.
No.
All you have to do is do the contract procurement, understand that process, a little bit more B2B, maybe in B2G if you want to get into that space. But it's just a totally different entrepreneurial mindset. You know what I'm saying? And going from that.
But do you feel like you had to start as wearing all the hats first? Because I feel like I wouldn't have been able to scale to where I am now, where at many of the productions, I don't have to be there. I don't have to be even part of some of the communication. Like once like you said, close the contract.
Yep.
And I got then I was like, you're doing this, you're doing that, the videographer. But when I'm on set, yeah, I'm not the one doing all the buttons, but I know what it needs to look like.
100%.
Because I was there at one point, right? 100%. But I started it with sometimes with my phone or a cheap camera. And it's like, oh, also the advantage to that is, for me in this space, is there's been time that all this equipment just goes to shit. And I'm like, I know how to simplify it.
Yeah.
The pandemic made me the most money.
Yeah.
Especially with these huge pods. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've been recording virtually this whole time. And they're like, that's it? Yeah, we can definitely do it in ways where it'll work. So it's also so, when people take my course sometimes, I'm like, take my course, learn how to do it yourself, and then outsource. Because if I were to just say, I'm going to start a production company, the videographers can screw me over.
100%.
And they love to use them big words. Yeah, because we have these files. And they're, shut the fuck up and give me what I said. Like, they love to use big words. And I look at them and I'm like, all right, I'll have somebody else do it.
Yeah. No, you got to know your industry. But remember what I told you about, like, every 4 years you learn and then you get to the next level? That's what I'm talking about.
As you were saying that, I'm like, I'm on year 5 right now. And I've had this itch to kind of like, this is running. And it's running on its own.
Yeah.
I just need to kind of perfect a little bit more of my systems, and I'm so ready for something different.
Yeah,
it's still kind of the same space what I want to do, but
it's
it's
just
like
the next evolution of it. Because let me fast forward, right? DJ, marketing agency, then I started getting into events. You saw the beginning of like BYOB, all that good stuff.
Right.
When I got, because that's just like experiential marketing. When I got into events, then I started working with all the vendors, right? And I was like, that's how much you get paid. That's how much, like, because I built that first conference by myself, right? So I understood it. Then I saw the AVL, the audio video lighting people. I was like, that's how much I'll get paid to come in. So then, exactly. So then I did that for 4 years, and then it became the next. I'm like, once I made enough money, I invested like $500,000 and got a warehouse, and we got LED walls, lighting. And now I'm not only my consulting for people who are building conferences and shows, but I want the full production budget as well. And I can beat out everybody's prices. But I started to understand as I build. And so you're right, you do have to start. But I'm on like PhD level of my level because I've gone through and I understand every single component of it, and I can do it. You know what I'm saying?
You have to start like learning small, and you're like grabbing
and
learning from other
100%.
people. And it's like sometimes now I'm starting to see my profit being even higher because I know what the cost is for something. So some people I'll be like, this is how much it costs to produce an episode. Like, what? And I'm like, find somebody else to do it though. It's the time constraint,
100%.
period. There's so much 100%. Time that goes into it, but you get to do it. Now, you work from the front, and now being completely invisible. What does that look like? What does that mean to you?
Yeah.
That you don't want to be seen because we did the BYOB virtual.
Yeah.
That's the first time. Then you called me to do a school. It was some scientists. What was that thing in DC?
It was a Gilead production. Yeah.
And I was looking at it and I was like, what is this that he messaged me for? So you flew me to DC to do literally like, I think like an hour or two virtual to talk to potential scientists to go to the Gilead of people, of students of color.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did this guy get in this? Like, how did you even end up with this, right?
Yeah.
Super grateful for the opportunity because those little things I do. Like, I still like being a personality, but just in smaller scales, right? I don't want to go on a podcasting live tour. You know what I mean? I like to do small things here and there where I can be fun. Like, I did the radio almost 2 years for radio, and then that was cool. But I'm like, this isn't for me. Every day,
so you're not doing the radio anymore?
I'm like showing up every single morning. It was like, this is not what I want to do. I'm trading time for no money.
Yeah.
But it
scaled me and it allowed me to see and view in production. But, and that's another part. Like you said, you took all these jobs. I took radio very intentionally. I knew I had no money in radio, but I knew my contacts in sales 100%. And let me really see how much money is coming in. How does things get produced differently? And then being able to be that. So you had Gilead, then you did Black Equity Con. So then I go to Black Equity Con and I'm like, here you go.
That was a fun one.
That was so much fun.
Because I'm gonna tell you why. I loved your recap. I watch it every time, every now and then, because it just looks so fun. You made it look so fun. I was like, yo, Carla's the life of the party. Yo. I love this.
I had so much fun that day.
Yeah, it was like one of the first big conferences after the pandemic coming back. Right? And to me, it was that one was special to me because I was like, can I pull off a conference and not step on stage one time? And that was a big deal for me because I wanted to be able to do something at that level and like damn near, if you knew, you knew. But like,
nobody knew.
Yeah, and I was.
I mean, the people that.
Yeah, like a lot of people would ask me, "Yo, come out on stage." I was like, "No," and it wasn't because like, it was more so for myself. Right. I was like, I went into this knowing I will not show my face. I've been off of social media for like a year or two. Like, I wanted to prove to myself, you know what I'm saying, that I could pull this off. And I did. Yeah, and I did.
I remember I went up to say hi to you, and I had a videographer with me, and I was like, "You know who that is?" Nobody that was with me knew who you were, and I'm like, "This is actually his," and they were like, "What?" And he goes, but he just looks, he's just chilling. I was like, yeah, it's the freaking point to throw something. And that excites me, not other people. I know folks that are like, I need to be on that mic. I need to be on that stage and the camera needs to be on me.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think that we even had to go through the process of being in the front, being in the limelight in order to want this? Or do you think some people don't have to?
I think so. I think there's some people that truly know, like my friend Dex, is truly introvert. She's like, I'm okay with being behind the scenes.
I agree with that. Yeah, some people are.
But I think that this being in front of this in front taught me what you're gonna be feeling there. Because at the end of the day, when we recruit folks, we know who to look for. Yeah. It's like, let me see how you work. Let me see how you speak. And again, I love conferences, which I probably don't get invited to too many because I'm really real. When I don't like to bullshit. I don't like to just inspire somebody. It's like, hey, this is the truth and the nitty gritty. And that doesn't sit well with some people at times, but it's just like, let's speak real. And let's be, you're here. If you spent your hard-earned money to be here, let me tell you the truth 100%. About it and let me really help you. I don't want you to leave here just inspired. I want you to leave here with like some tasks that you're going to go do today at home, or you can leave here with something. But I think I had to be in front of the camera to know, I think I like behind the scenes a lot, but I still, like I said, I still like this just in very small portions, which is here. I'm 20 minutes from my house. Yeah. You know, I come here, I hang out. This is fun to me. Yeah. And then I leave in the next 4 weeks. I don't have to worry about anything else. And I can just work on everybody else's stuff. And there's a sense of, I don't know if you get this, like when we launched Across Generations with Will Packer, they're on Essence and Vanity Fair and all these like big things. And it's their name, right? Because we're essentially pretty much white labeled as a production company behind Will Packer Productions. And I was just like, yeah, that's me. That was nice. Yeah, that's me. And then everybody's like, oh, Willis is good. I'm like, yeah.
That's I don't know what type of feeling that is.
I don't know. Feeling, yo. I love
you know what it is? I think this is what it is. I think it's the feeling of, you know, accomplishing your goals without a certain weight that comes with it.
Yes.
Because I think when you accomplish things in the forefront, there's a well, now I have to look a certain way, be a certain way, act a certain way, continue to keep things a certain way. And I think I realized that during the pandemic, like, I don't want the weight of even trying to achieve more. Like, I do what I want to do and I'll keep it and I'm happy with that. But like, all of that kind of comes with it. And I think I realized that during the pandemic, and I just went double, triple down on the idea of this kind of whole invisible CEO thing.
Yeah. Now, you're so private. Like, how do you even, shifting from like business, so you're business. How does that go with your personal life? Because you're now mid-30s, right? Wait, 34?
33.
33?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're 33, and I see, plus your little girlfriend or whatever. I was like, let's check him out. But how do you, outside of that, how do you balance it? Because sometimes I'm like, even now, after my like terrible breakup 2 years ago, I'm still trying to navigate this whole dating space, but I'm like, I just rather work. How do you find balance in like your personal life? Because you were saying you have contact with your parents now again.
You know what's crazy? The relationship that I'm in right now is helping me build that back because they love her. and she loves them. And it's such a beautiful thing that I've never even thought was going to happen. And it's kind of starting to bring us all together.
Look at God working.
It really is beautiful. Yeah.
So how long have you been with her?
Almost 2, 3 years.
So how did you find that balance to say, because you have to give a relationship, if it's been 2 to 3 years, that means that you're putting in the work and you're making it work.
100%.
So how do you balance that with all of the work?
So I will say this. One of the other reasons why I decided to really go behind the scenes, and this is just for me, it might not be for everybody. One of the other big reasons that I went behind the scenes was, I think I realized that, and it comes with that weight of being on when you're in the forefront. I could never balance life. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's just the truth. Even if I wanted to or tried to, I'm always thinking, there's always issues. I'm always worried about stuff that I shouldn't be worried about. And all of my relationships before the pandemic never worked out because of just like what social media does to people's minds, bro, is like, it's so crazy. Like it makes you think about just so much stuff, and it makes you do, and it makes you, I can't even like fully articulate it. But
there's an expectation from
100%.
you. I felt that when I would go out and they wanted me to be on all the time. And I know I'm here and I'm fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am fun and I have a good time. But I'm also like to be just quiet.
Yeah.
Sometimes, or just, I don't look like this 90% of the time. Like my weave ain't in. Yeah. I don't ever wear shoes. Yeah. Like I'm in sweats, and people want you to be on. Like, oh my God, talk to me. Like, what's it going? And I'm like, I don't want to.
So to me, that's that weight that I'm talking about, right? You have to be on. Even just like walking through like the airport and stuff, and you're just like, somebody recognize you. You gotta like be prepared to like talk to them, and when you don't even know who they are, but they know who you are. Like,
they know everything about you. And dating too. Yeah, they know so much about that, you.
Right? And even just trying to even keep up with your own like facade of like who you think you should be, and it's not even who you are. It's just who you think you should be, because that's how the world sees you.
Even with like material things.
100%.
I felt sometimes at one point years back, I felt the need to keep up with like material stuff or where I was staying. Or
100%.
What? 100%. Absolutely not. That was never me. And I'm like, I started seeing myself saying, I need to wear this or I need to look this way. Girl, no, you don't. Put your white t-shirt on and keep it moving.
You want to hear something really funny? I think you posted. Didn't you post something the other day about like flying Frontier?
Yeah.
Like, cool. You know what? I did a podcast like way long ago, and I was like, you know how like when I built my conferences, like I used to network a lot. I used to meet a lot of people, and in order for me to do that at scale, I would meet people a lot, right? And so I would fly out, I would meet people, all this good stuff. But like, how did you think I did that at scale? Like, I was flying Spirit and Frontier like out the wazoo. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't care because I had to do that at scale. You know what I'm saying? And so like, it's funny to me, like, people be like so pressed about like trying to keep up, do this, do that. But I'm like, I'm a millionaire and I have no problem doing that because I don't care. And now that I'm like even off the forefront, I care even less. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's just a beautiful thing.
Like, especially like when I go to Atlanta, Frontier is $50.
Yo, it's like cheap.
Delta is $400.
Yeah, it's dumb.
It's a 50-minute flight. What the hell do I look like?
No, 100%.
And if you see me on Frontier, baby, if you're getting on the Delta and I'm getting on Frontier, and we leave at the same time, we're gonna get there at the same time.
Not only are we gonna get there at the same time, people be mad. Like, I am not an airplane specialist. Who am I to tell the FAA that this is like a better plane or a worse plane, or is that like how am I to tell? You know what I'm saying?
I
like,
don't give three
two
damns.
planes that's gonna get to where they get. So I'm proud, and I said this before. Like, I really don't care.
But like, that's also financial literacy, right? 100%. Because you see some people that are like, I'm only gonna fly Delta or I'm only gonna fly this. Unless someone else is paying for that flight for you, which that could be the case, right? There's some talent that get in their fee. But I have done this where I'm like, they're like, you have a budget of $500 for a flight. That includes that Delta flight. Baby, I'm taking that $100 one and I'm pocketing the $400.
100%.
And I don't need to. Who are you putting on for? Now where I am, I have Amex Platinum. So what do I do right before Frontier? I take my little ass to the to the lounge. Yeah. I drink and I eat and I go nice and stuffed and sit on my Frontier. The only thing I'll do extra is ask for a window seat. I'll pay the extra $40.
Sure.
But I've also been in the middle.
Yeah.
I've also forgot to do it because ADHD is a thing.
Yeah.
And I forgot, and I'm like, darn, there's no more. But I'll sit there and I'll be okay. I might not like it, but there's also another hack, which I'm not going to tell you on here. I'll tell you off on how to get on first. You might be able to do it.
I think I already know it. Yeah. I think I've flown enough time to know it.
Pre-boarding, baby, and I get the best seats on the plane, and I don't have to pay anything extra for it. But when we first started talking, and I want to get back to the entrepreneurship, I love that you mentioned that because
no, seriously,
people really are so worried about what they look like.
People try so much to keep up, and it'll make them go broke.
Keep up with the Joneses.
Like I got friends, like they're so pressed to like fly first class. I'm like, that's cool, but the biggest difference probably between me and a lot of people, and I try to be so real and so like smart with my money. Like I didn't start flying first class until like I had $1 million in my bank account. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like when I had $1 million business or when like I wanted $1 million in my bank before I started flying. Like so I had my own personal benchmarks of when I was going to level up, and so I was able to like just
so last year towards the end of the year, my account, because I don't have any overhead essentially, right? I don't own a studio. Everything is virtual. Like I don't have a lot of expenses. So I'm making X amount of money, and she's telling me I need some expenses. Yeah. Boy, let me tell you, November, December, I was like, upgrade.
That's when I buy everything. No, that's when I
new Mac, first class flights, and I did spend because as I know from being an accountant, it's like I'm either gonna pay it in taxes,
correct,
or I can use it. So 100%. I did like those last 2.5 months that I was flying.
That's what I do every year too.
I upgraded as soon as I on my way, but I didn't like buy it right away first. It still hurts me to do so. What I would do is I'll buy regular, and then on the way or that morning I'll be like, "Is there an upgrade available?" And then I'll pay the extra $250 or like sometimes up to like $400 or $500 to upgrade, and I'll pay it there. But it's just like to buy it right off first class. I'm like, shit, I don't want to. Yeah. Sometimes it's cheaper to just upgrade.
Yeah, no, the pandemic was fun, man. Especially when we were, and then I totally agree with that. I tend to spend a lot of my money in November, December. Once I get through the year, I'm like, oh, okay, this is how much we have. Like you're either gonna pay a couple $100,000 to the IRS, or you're just gonna blow your money, right? And so like,
that's crazy. I'm so happy that we gained this.
That's a real thing.
Last year, I had to pay $95,000.
Okay.
That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I was like, and this is me on a low scale. Like, I'm not even anywhere close to where I want to get to.
Yeah.
And that's people don't even make that as a salary.
Yeah. No, it is. We're starting to get into some crazy.
It looks so different, and I don't want it to. It just amplifies who you are as a person.
Yeah.
So you see some people making all this money or pretending to make all this money, and you kind of see who they become. Yeah. And for me, it's like, oh, it's amplifying who I am. And I think it was you who said this. You don't want to make six figures. You want
pay somebody.
You want to pay. Yeah. I am on my way right now to, increasing some salaries and doing certain things. And that feels so much better to me.
On some real, like when I die, I think that's probably gonna be one of the top 3 things I'm most proud of. To be able to pay like one of my like COOs like $100+ a year. I don't know why I love that so much.
I love it. I was thinking about moving someone else. I think it's like 65, and I said, "Damn, that's what I was making as an accountant."
Yeah,
with a degree.
Yeah.
And I'm able to say this. Like shout out to one of my producers, Courtney. He started with me from the beginning. He was one of my students. And then I told him, I was like, I don't have much to pay you. I got $200 a month. And he's been like, he tells me, like, I'll go over a cliff with you. I was like, let's just keep going. The more money I make, the more money you will make. Just please believe in where I'm going through. And it's because they're invested just the same way I am. But paying somebody, I cringe when somebody says to me, it's cool, they're doing it for free. I don't pay my team. Or when I find out how much they pay their team and how much work their team has to do, and they're just like, oh yeah, but they're getting exposure. I cringe and I feel so bad because I know that if you were to just do it right, how much more money will come to you. Yeah. The more I pay my team, the more I make sure they're good, the happier they are, the better work they do for me makes me look better. Yeah. We make more money. Yeah. So that is when you posted that. That
was a while ago too. I posted it the year before it actually happened. And that was during the pandemic. So yeah, so many beautiful things happened during the pandemic. And one was being able to pay somebody 6 figures, Y'all don't get any. You won't get there though.
My producers, listen, don't get excited. It ain't gonna happen this. We ain't dig it.
It's gonna happen. I believe it because I think you see the way you want to really build over the next few years, and it's just a matter of time. It's literally just a matter of time.
I think for me, of course, having kids slow me down. Even with my son right now, my son was not part of the plan, right? And then when I go and get engaged to this guy that's complete and total fraud, and I find out years later, and I'm stuck with this baby, right? It's like, can't do anything. And I'm on my own 100%. similar to you, like I don't have a relationship. Well, my father passed away, but I don't have a relationship with my family. So it's just me. And having to do so, it takes a different type of grit to get you to where you need to be. And I feel like men do have a little bit of a lot of it of an advantage in that part, that the way that you can move, right? Sure. And even if you were to have kids, right, there's 100%. Just a different way that you can move. But I still love my journey. So I know most of my listeners are women, but I love to learn also from anyone, but from a man that's like, I can do that too. Like Charlamagne was one of the people that I looked up to the most in radio and in this space. But it was really because one, his growth, like he went shit before, like the way he would talk things, but it was like he's allowing himself to evolve and change the way that he thinks and do it publicly and not feel bad about it. For you, you're like, hey, I'm willing to learn, and you're like YouTube and watching Shark Tank and doing this, and it's like all of us have all that. It's either going to cost you time or money, and you put the time in to get to where you're at. So when he's like, I have $1 million in the bank, and you're thinking, oh, I got $10. Or it's like, well, my light bill's about to come out, so I'm about to be down to like the negative. You could be here as well. It's just, are you willing to put in the time? Because the people that I know that are worried that they ain't got the money or the bills are about to come out, they're at brunch. Yeah. They're somewhere in France. And I'm like, what you doing in France? I feel like I can't afford France. You know what I mean? Like, although the money may be there, I'm like, I'm not there yet to enjoy it. I enjoy little that. Go to Bahamas. Yeah. Before I go to France.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to like riding your own race. You know what I'm saying? Like running your own race. But again, the problem with social media is honestly, I even think people aren't running their own race. I think they're running other people's races. You know what I'm saying?
Watching their lane.
Yeah. And they're like, they want to mimic that. But it's like, if you're mimicking that, how do you know that that's actually for you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's not your purpose.
It's not actually your purpose. It's just what you saw, and it was, packaged well, and now you like it, and now you think that that's something that you want to do too.
You just want their results.
It's very counterintuitive, because it's like on social media, you're supposed to be authentic, but if everyone is kind of doing what the algorithm wants or what everybody else is doing, it's like that's kind of like the opposite of authenticity.
It makes what I'm saying? It makes no sense.
It's like social media is very counterintuitive to that point, and I didn't realize that until the pandemic, until I went to therapy, all this good stuff.
I love that you went to therapy.
Yeah, man.
Are you still in it?
Nah. No, I'm not.
He said, I'm healed. I'm healed. I'm done. I made it through.
Yeah, but I'm not. But I'll go back every now and then if I need to process something.
It's like a tune-up.
Yeah. But man, I did a good core, 6
What is something that you found out? That's something that like a breakthrough.
So I did
therapy.
So much, man. I think the biggest thing was I did something called IFS, internal family systems. A lot of it was fixing childhood traumas.
Okay.
A lot of that helped me reveal not only where I wanted to go as a businessman, but also who I wanted to be from a relationship perspective and a husband, all this good stuff. I just don't think I could have been the man that I needed to be without going through that.
If you're willing to share it, what were some things that you think were blocking you or you had to heal from your childhood?
Man, and it's weird because it's been a couple years now, so I'm trying to remember it, but a lot of it is just, it's hard for me to, I can't pinpoint a couple things, but I will say this. A lot of it comes down to my mindset now, which is I'm very content with life. Mm-hmm. Everything that I have, I deserve. If I don't have it, I don't deserve it. So I don't subscribe to the whole what's more, what's next. I'm very, very content with life. I've also I just learned how to be a lot more present, I guess you can say, and I think that's helped too. My
growing up, was it always the future?
Yeah. Always wanting more, always wanting next, and I think that's always living in a state of anxiety. You know what I'm saying? That hurt my relationships. You know what I'm saying? Always trying to figure stuff out. Not even be able to just be chill and be in the present and be in the moment and enjoy a personal relationship with someone.
Because anxiety is living in the future.
100%. And then, obviously just forgiving my past. Even that weird stuff, man. I used to have my spot. It's weird. I was just talking to one of my boys about this. It's kind of weird. It's little mindset stuff. I used to have a bookshelf full of accolades, pictures, autograph stuff and this and that. I moved around during the pandemic, and when I settled down, I never cared to actually take none of that stuff out. I never cared to showcase it all. And I started thinking to myself, Why? Right? And it's like, because I don't get value out of what people think I am, or what I've accomplished, or what I have. You either like me or you don't, and I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying?
But it took you time to get that. You didn't.
100%.
You wanted people to like you.
Because everything was I mean, I think as a young 27-year-old, like, you're growing up trying to get validated, you know, by the success, by the money, by your associations, by your follower count, all this good stuff. And like, I completely stop. Like, I don't care if you like me or not, type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And that
doesn't equal being a bad person either.
Correct.
Because sometimes they'll be like, I don't care what I do, and they're just rude to people. It's just more you're just being you.
Yeah.
And the kind person
like,
that you are.
Like, if you're in my world, we're gonna have a great time. But if you're not, I'm not sitting here thinking about the 40,000 people that, you know, follow me. Like, if there's a relationship, then great. If there's not, it's like, I'm not trying to please you in my day-to-day life. You know what I'm saying? But you're constantly thinking about that. So I think the biggest thing is just, it's almost like a sense of just like identity. You know what I'm saying? And just knowing that, like, my validation comes internally.
Were you a people pleaser at one point?
I think so. I think most entrepreneurs are, in a sense, especially when they're starting, right? You're trying to win a job. You're trying to win a relationship. You're trying to get people to like you. Like, I think we all are.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Because in order to get that job, you kind of have to
100%.
like mold.
You got to mold
into
100%. And as you grow, like, you lose yourself in this world.
Like, who are you? Who am I? Who am I now?
Yes. Are you really who you are? That's what I mean. Like, are you really authentic to you? And you'll never even get to that point until you just sit down and like do that internal work. Get to know yourself. What do I actually like? What don't I like? You know what I realized, like, I've met so many people. I have all these people come speak and all this stuff. I realized too, like, a lot of people
see some characters.
Yeah, and, you know, and there are moments that just tell me, like, wow, if it wasn't for business, I don't even think I'd be friends with you. And that was a line that I started creating too.
How do you manage that? Because I felt myself in those spaces where it's like,
I managed it very simply. To me, there's such a gray area in the way that we live, right? Because like business, personal, it just turns really gray, especially with social media. Because now you're, you know, are you working or is it after hours? You're still on social media working, right? There's all this gray area. And the truth is, we should do what was always taught to us, right? When it's business, keep it business. If it's personal, keep it personal. If you're checked in at 9 a.m. to 5, 9 to 5, then do what you got to do. If you got to turn on when it's 9 to 5, turn on. When you got to turn off, like, actually turn off. If it's the weekends, like, the weekends was actually meant so that we all as a society can decide, you know what, let's all take a 2-day break so that we can rest, rejuvenate, you know what I'm saying, clear our minds. Like, but then we all got into this, like, let's keep hustling, let's keep working, let's keep trying to outdo the next person versus all these basic boundaries that were always set from the beginning of times. I look at it differently, right? I'm like, this is actually good for us. You know what I'm saying? These days that are off are good for us versus like, oh, I'm trying to beat the system, or why should we do this or do that? Like, to me, it's keeping it separate.
To me, so even with my clients, like, there's something that people would joke around all the time, and it's like, man, you come into these productions and you're out. I either leave the same day or I leave 6 a.m. the next morning. You know, I'm out. Like, you never stick around. And I think that's what has allowed me to grow in the space the way that I have, because although I love my clients, I don't just take on anyone. Like, I have turned down so much money. I talked about it in the last episode because my team has to take in all of this audio, right? Constantly. So depending on what they're taking in, that shapes you. You said you took in all these hours of entrepreneurship. Yeah. Look at where you are.
Right.
If I give them hours of strippers and ass shaking and dick sucking, it's like, that's what their brain is going to be taking in. Not that there's not a lane for that. It's just not a lane where I'm at and what I want to be feeding to my team. So where was I going with that? Okay. So my clients, I come in, love them. They have to be vulnerable with me, essentially, because in order to have a good show, we can't just be like, we're gonna talk about X, Y, and Z. I need you to show emotion. I need you to when I help people with their talent and developing them, it's like, you gotta be vulnerable. You gotta give me some. You don't have to give me 100% of everything, all your deep, darkest secrets, but we have to show a progression from episode to episode and get people to feel like they can resonate with you. But then I'm gone.
Yeah. But you know what? You hit it on the mark. You said you choose who you decide to work with. And I think that's the difference too. Because I think at the beginning of your journey, or even for the majority of my journey, and especially when you're like growing and riding this wave, you're always saying yes. And so the ability to even say no is how you're already starting. And I didn't, honestly, prior to the pandemic, I probably said yes to everything. You know what I'm saying? For sure. And that's what I mean by just losing yourself. Right.
Oh my
100%.
God.
So being able to say no is the first step, in my opinion, to just saying, you know what? this is not a good fit. When you're able to say no to money, to be honest, you've reached a new level of life.
And I've said no even when I shouldn't have said no. When that money could have helped. I'm like, that chick. But for me, my energy, where I'm at, my team, my integrity, it's so much more. I could have taken that money. Remember, I turned down someone not recently, it was last year. It was a big contract. And my spirit, I was like, I can't do it. They had already signed. And I was like, I can't do it. I let it go. And literally like 2 weeks later, something happened online that showed me that is not the person that I needed to have my name behind. Yeah. Like I could not do that. So sometimes, yes, we take some clients, but when I first started, it was like, used to charge like $750 a month for 4 episodes. I was like, what was I thinking? But you got to start somewhere. I used to do $50 an hour consultations. Like it led me to be here. Right. But you have to choose who you work with. Every check is not a check that you want. It really isn't. Now, I do want to talk to you about, I have a letter that we're going to go into. Oh, no, wait. Fuck the letter. I have a question for you. Because we have to maximize our time when we're in a room with certain people, right? Okay. For me, there's been a few conferences that I've paid for to be at, or rooms that I'm like, I got to make sure I get there. I'll finesse my way in because there's someone there that I want to speak to, or I want to build a relationship with, or there's something I want from them. How do you maximize your time? I've seen that you've been around Gary Vee a few times, right? A couple years back, then you were just with him recently. But that's a person that's go. And he has people throwing themselves at him, right? Yeah. But there's something very specific you want to learn from that person. So what did you do, or how do you do it with the people that you want to get something out of?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was out in LA because I'm going to quote the lady that I was out there with, Arlen Hamilton, right? Backstage Capital, killing it in her lane. She said something that's really, really good. What is it? Stay hungry, not thirsty. Okay. Something like that, right? I think, and I don't know how you can teach this to people, but I've gotten really good. I actually was just telling somebody the other day, a lot of entrepreneurship is like, you can tactical, practical courses. You can learn a lot of like what to do. The other side of me that I thought has been really, really powerful that it's hard for me to explain is like my level of like discernment, your energy, just how you approach things, right? Not being so thirsty in certain situations, because honestly, sometimes not even being so out there, right? Like you attract certain people. People will watch you and they're like, you know what? I'm curious, right? Like be curious. You know what I'm saying? Like if you put yourself out there too much, not only do you look thirsty, it feels off. To me, that's how I've been moving a lot. Like sometimes I casually meet people. A lot of times too. Sometimes the best way to sell people is just like, well, hey, if it's not like direct selling. It's like, hey, if it's a good fit, then great. If it's not, it's okay. But that sometimes make people want to work with you more, right?
Well, he don't want me that bad.
Because it's not pressure to like sell and close. And I think that approach has helped me a lot. Okay. Everything has been like, hey, if it's a good fit, great. If it's not, it's okay. Right. And I think people appreciate that, and people
they don't feel the pressure.
Yeah, and people like that. And so when you have that approach, I think it's very powerful. The other thing that I've been telling a lot of people recently that I really, really love is you should have this with or without energy, which means like, hey, this is what I do, this is what I am, blah, blah. And, I'm going to do it with or without you. And that's super attractive as well. Because most people that look at that, they're like, damn, I think I want to be a part of that. They can do it
without me? What you mean you can do that without me?
Nobody wants you don't want anybody to have like ultimate leverage over you. Nor does anybody want to be that person that like puts you on so much that they like almost control you. You know what I'm saying? And so that with or without energy I talked about, if you move around with that too, it's like, it's attractive. You know what I'm saying? I think it's attractive from a personal relationship side and a business side. And it came from the idea that, I heard like I used to watch a lot of people in the VC world. They're like, instead of going to and like trying to force yourself to pitch to like investors and stuff like that, the better way to do is like ask them for their feedback on a pitch that you're about to send to somebody else, right? It's that very subconscious approach. It's like, hey, what do you think about this? You know what I'm saying? Then they look at it, they're like, damn, this is good. Can I buy in? You know what I'm saying? It's that very
really what's for you.
it's that very subconscious way of moving that I think that I do. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of couple. It's all of that together. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does, because that's how I moved in this space. Yeah. It was like, hey, I would love to work with you, whether it's free or not. I just want to be in the room.
Yeah.
And when I get in that room, I'm in a corner.
Yeah.
And I'm watching. And that's when, if you shut up essentially sometimes and just listen and watch, you'll start figuring out who's who. Like if somebody
100%.
would, all the people that were at Black Equity Con, let's just say that one. There was, how many people were there?
Like 3,000 people.
Like 3,000 people. We have all these people there. If you were going there and you were just watching the loudest person in the room, or you were just going in there to be like, I'm this person, if you would have just sat back and watched, they would have noticed you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you were walking around, you were like standing in certain places, and it's like, let me just make sure this is good. Let me make sure that's good. When I'm on set, so this just happened, we filmed with a rapper recently with another one of my shows. When I'm filming, there's the videographer, I have a producer, like there's the BTS person. I'm usually in a corner. Yeah. On my laptop, making sure everything's good. When they're like, hey, can you check the angles? I check the angles. Hey, we're good. Switch this here. I go back to my corner. This person's here at the end of the production. He says, so is she the one in charge here? Like, is this her production? And the talent was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. Then even then, when I wanted to jump and be like, hell yeah, it's me. Like, what's up? I chilled. And then he didn't feel, I was hungry and I wanted it. So I kept watching and I kept giving him some direction or whatever. They were about to leave. And he was like, hey, I need to get your contact because I have some ideas. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, hey, go ahead and give it to my producer. Hey, let's go ahead and take it. Like, I got it. And it's just, okay, see you later. Bye. I will message him and I would love that bag, but I also want them to know I'm professional. I also want them to know I'm working. You know, I'm not like, and that just makes a difference in relationships 100%. And how you move. So you have to just watch how you move. And sometimes the loudest person in the room is not the smartest person in the room. 100%. It's not. I like to be quiet and watch who's behind the scenes. When Charlamagne first gave me access, I thought I was going to work with him and he was going to be this mentor. That's not how things happen. Mm-hmm. He ended up just opening the room for like a year. I'd be like, you have an event, I want to go. He's like, all right, whatever, hit. That's how I ended up meeting my ex. But he's like, hit up so-and-so, let you in. Oh, wow. I was in the rooms and he's working. I'm over here. I'm like, hi, how you doing? That's when I realized who Chris Morrow was. Got it. Chris Morrow is the head of like everything audio space. Yeah. Like this white man, this Jew is like, right. Jesus, amazing. That. Do I have his number? Hell yeah. Now I know who he is. But if I was talking about, I got this podcast and I want to I would have never noticed that was him. When I was at the Breakfast Club behind the scenes, like, who's who? Then I have Dwayne. Yeah. Right now, I had an issue with one of my audios, and Dwayne is one of the engineers for Black Effect, works behind Brilliant Idiots, does all of these stuff. And I was like, yo, this happened to my audio. Can you check this out? Fix it. I had it back within like an hour. He's like, here you go. Like, that's priceless. That's literally priceless. And all that takes is for you to sit back, be humble, and like, let me figure out who I need to build the relationship with and then pull the trigger at the right time, not like prematurely.
100%. You know the beauty about this path that we're talking about too? You know, the people who are usually like upfront out there, what happens is, I guarantee you the one or two relationships we build at every event or thing that we go to, they go much further and they're easier to work through than the person that has to go through like 50 contacts that they just made. You know what I'm saying? And then you swift through like half of them are scammers. The other half
literally
are swifters. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like when you just start looking at it like that, it's like my life just seems a lot more easier and more peaceful because I'm going through and I'm connected with people who are a little bit more genuine. Like our connection is probably gonna be deeper. I'll probably go through less BS in general. Right. Like, to me, that just sounds beautiful.
And people that they're just not so heavy. I feel like some people are just like, they need so much, and I'm like, I don't have the time. And even if I did, I don't want to spend all my time with you. I want to have intentional moments like, hey, I'll be in town in 3 months. Do you want to grab dinner? Or I have this event coming up. Can you, like, is there any way we can help or collaborate? Or I need you for this. And then it just works at certain times. I don't have to be up your ass every 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. Or like for you to see my face or for me to tell you what I'm doing all the time. You'll see it eventually. Like, I didn't think I admire what you do. When I messaged you, I'm like, this nigga goes in now. He gonna be like, I ain't going to Orlando, the fuck Disney World. And you said yes so quick, and I was like, I'm doing something, and it's just hard to see it when you're in it. Yeah. And the fact that I'm literally here in Orlando all the time, I'm usually on a Frontier flight, Delta if I'm going to New York. It's cheaper that way. But no, I'll get on flights and I'm here and there, but I'm out. I leave right after my event. Like, even when I went with you, I landed, I was gone again the next day at 6 a.m. Like, I really leave pretty quickly. I just want my work to speak, and that's how you or anyone else will grow, is letting their work speak for them.
And it's working, yo. Like, I think you're moving great. I think the way you've been moving, I think you know, we've always had little connections over the years, But I'm watching, you know, I'm like, yeah, this is working for her, and I think it's gonna work. You know what I'm saying?
I have a lot of
well.
fun doing it. I have a
Yeah.
lot of fun doing it. There's, of course, it's challenges, but I continue to say I want to continue to amplify voices that matter and that really have something to say that will help other people, other than just like, I don't know, they'd be like, stop selling pod mics or whatever. It's
Right.
like, I get
Right.
it, but we also have to have discernment on who to listen to. Like, there's a
Mm.
lot of chaos, whether it's through podding, social media, or
Mhm.
out in the world with friends. You
Mhm.
have to know who you are
Yeah.
attracting. But to wrap up the episode, I don't know if you have any like background in like, do you consider yourself like religious at all or spiritual?
I do.
Did you grow up with a certain faith?
Well, I
You're
grew up going to
Vietnamese?
church.
Like
no,
Christian?
Yeah, Christian church.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents are. I mean, they ended up being ordained ministers. So yeah, I grew up.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like a PK.
Almost.
A preacher's kid.
Yeah, almost.
Like in a way.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in the church. My grandfather was a pastor. I grew
Okay.
up, I left for a long time, but in my journey, there's always been like that fear of God and me knowing my relationship with him. So I always end every episode with just a Bible verse. I'll go to church.
deep.
Now, don't get me wrong.
Dang.
I'm not perfect.
Okay.
And God, I don't ever use like God knows my heart, because girl, you know better
Yeah.
for certain things, but I'm in my own journey and I don't try
Yeah.
to like push anyone in their journey, but there's just certain things that come up to me and I like to speak on it on this platform
Wow.
specifically
Okay.
because I do understand that I wouldn't be here without him. And there's
I was not expecting this. But I like it. Keep going.
The end of every episode. So we
Okay.
end with a Bible verse. And the one that I brought for this episode specifically was 2 Timothy 1:7. And it says, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." And I brought this one specifically because as it says, God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love. We are powerful. We have all of this love within us, and we're not supposed to be fearful. You were saying you take certain risks, right?
Mhm.
And this seems like something I should be scared of, right? Like
Mhm.
taking another leap and
Mhm.
taking a job. I took a $300,000 a job that, again, I be telling people that don't go all to my pocket. But it was huge, and there's a huge expectation of me, and I am scared. I think daily when I get these emails, I have to check in and continue to do this production, but I know that I can do it. So I do not let that fear of spirit come over me. I have the power, I have the love, but also self-control. And I think the self-control comes into our lives from so many different aspects, from, you know, being out with different people, having sex, or from spending money frivolously, or from pretending to be someone who you're not.
Yeah.
There are all these things. So although God gave us the spirit
so
of
good.
no fear,
That's so good.
also don't be thinking that you can lack self-control.
That's so good.
So that was 2 Timothy.
Can I add to that?
Yes,
I
please
think,
do.
You know what's crazy? I just had the church that I go to up in the DC area. We do this Bible study every other Monday.
I love
And
that.
we just did this thing where we talked about the whole, you know, like just control and just being a steward of everything that you have, of your business, of your money. And it's easy to say. People say, oh, you know, this belongs to God, or I'm doing this, but like, what does that actually mean? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a whole thing that you can dive deeper. There's a book written by the founder of Hobby Lobby. He said like leadership not by the book, something like that. He actually practically wrote out like, what do I actually mean when I say this business is ran by God? You know what I'm saying? Or it's owned by God, and I'm just the manager of the resources, the board, the cash, the product, all this good stuff. And even the past couple of years, I've gotten deeper and deeper into this space too, which was another big pivot. I'll say this last thing. This whole faith thing has become another big pivot for me, and I 100% believe in the relationship that I built here, is because when I built my business like 10 plus years ago, I had a very worldly approach to it. I was hustling 24/7. I was doing this, I was doing that, all this good stuff. And I think that's fine. There are a lot of successful people out there that don't have any level of faith or all this good stuff. And you can hustle your butt off. I think the biggest difference that I learned, my mom told me this when I was young, but I never understood it. The biggest difference when you have God on your side is that you can get all that. It just comes easier. You know what I'm saying? And that started to even recalibrate how I look at balance and how I look at contentment and how I look at life and how I'm able to even balance my personal relationships and my family. And I think all that is beautiful when you kind of like look at it through that lens. And
I didn't expect for you to like, I don't know, sometimes I do and people be like, what do I do now? But I do love that because my business, my employees, I never call them my employees. I hate that I just say that. Scratch that out.
Same.
Like they are my team members. They're like my coworkers.
100%.
They all know how serious I am at certain times. And it's like, we last year lost all 3 of our top shows. It was like 1 month. It was like everything was gone. One, the season ended. The other one broke up, and the other one ended up another season. And I was like, what's about to happen? That was the first time in my life I didn't freak out. I didn't freak out. And I told them, and I'm thinking, I have some people that only work for me. Like I am their sole income. And that's like, to me, it's a big deal. But I left it up to God, and I tell them, and they listen to this every week, and they have to hear me talk. And I always tell them, just no fear. God got us. Like God really got us. And literally within weeks, we got this huge contract. And then everybody started coming back, and we're like, whoa. We got to expand the team. Like take a second. But it's all because, yes, God does run my life, and he does run my business. And I just want to be Christ-like when I move. I just want to be Christ-like. And I want to show that. And I feel like when I'm around certain people, that just shows. Does that mean that I can't joke around?
Sure.
I say stupid things all the time. Right. And, I'm still me.
Right.
But within that sense, it's like I don't make a move anymore without asking him first. Because I've made moves where I thought, like you said, you can be of the world and the world only and not have any belief, and you can grow, and then
but it's going to come with so much turmoil. So much headaches. Yep.
Harvey Weinstein.
So much. 100%.
The Bill Cosby.
Bro, some of these richest people in the world, but and this is why I even wanted to go more behind the scenes. I see how much torment is in their life, yo. I have no desire for it.
And then we're talking about the people that we see publicly.
Yeah.
I wish I could say I come from the trenches, but I don't.
Yeah.
And even within family, from people that I know personally, they live these lavish lifestyles, and I can see the torment in their lives, the drama in their lives. They don't have peace. And right now I go home. I go home and it's so peaceful.
That's wealth right there.
It's so I could literally not have like all the money in the world, and I'm like, my house is peaceful, and there's no one coming in here to disturb my peace at all. Now, do things happen? Absolutely. Things crash and burn. We lose money, we lose people, we lose relationships. But through all that, you'll realize later on that God was protecting you. It was his favor and protection that had to happen for you to go and level up to the next. So that is the episode. I appreciate you so much for coming on and flying all the way over here to the crazy Orlando airport. Was it busy today?
Nah, it wasn't busy. It was cool.
Oh, sometimes that airport is insane.
There are driving around. Yo, that's funny. Orlando's funny.
No, there is. So he's invisible, but he still does have Instagram, and he still does like do certain things within the space. One day I'll be a client of yours, and one day I'll be like, I want to put on the thing, and I don't want to be a part of it. I just want to sit in the back and have somebody else put it together, which I do with Carlos and Carolina. Where can they find you, or anything that you just kind of like want to leave us with?
Yeah, you can find me at Brand with Drew. If you want to work with us, theoagency.com. Just connect, stay in the loop. I do plan on releasing this book, so I'm slowly kind of making my way out there again. I'm trying to push myself to finish it, which I think it's just going to help people. I think all the mindset shifts and the ideas, and because honestly, people just follow what they see, and I feel like
and we need someone to learn with. I think you're there already, right? You said you learned from the Hobby Lobby guy and the Gary V's, and it's like you're in a position already where you can teach. Like I want to strive to be where you are, right? So if you wrote something and I'm like, I believe in what he did and the way he did it, I want to learn from you. Yeah. No, so there's always someone like 10 steps behind you that's following certain footsteps.
100%. Yeah. So I'm excited to kind of get that out. And otherwise, if you're trying to build out some conferences or do some shows, just hit me up too. theoagency.com.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here for another episode. You could have been anywhere else, but you were here. God bless you. I hope you got some gems on it, got to laugh, hang out. And there's the Invisible CEO. And I'm here. Remember, if you want to launch your own podcast, you can do so. You don't need to be super techie. You can do it from home. idealaunchpodcast.com. If you want me to be there with you, it's going to cost you a little more. But I can still help you for sure. It doesn't matter what your budget is. You can launch a pod, especially if you have something to say that is meaningful. I'm there to help you. idealaunchpodcast.com. And we're out of here. Goodbye.